I hope that the legacy of addiction in my family stops with Deric.
It's a family nearly torn apart by alcoholism, but bonded by love, strength, and kids escaping drugs. For Renaissance House might not be here without Don McHenry, and Deric McHenry might not be here without Renaissance House.
The fact that, that this all was put in place, and then years later, my own grandson needed it, is just remarkable. I think about it often, I really do.
Deric, now 27, was raised by his mother, a drug counselor, and he and his grandfather were inseparable. He lived a so-called normal childhood.
I was like a surrogate father to Deric, and we had a very special relationship.
I mean, it was directed to me to, not use drugs and to stay out of trouble. And, that was in my head for a very long time.
But before he had even reached high school, he had started drinking.
After a while, playing sports was great, but it wasn't cool enough, or, it just wasn't doing it. And I started to gravitate towards people who had access to mainly alcohol for me. So the escalation had started from maybe once a month to a couple times a month, for me, just drinking every day.
I remember like it was yesterday saying, "Pal, I feel like I'm going to lose you. I'm so afraid."
And Don had just the answer for his beloved grandson. Don served on the board of Alcohol and Drug Dependency Services, the parent umbrella of Kids Escaping Drugs, from 1984 to 1996, and served as president for 2 years.
I remember walking these grounds. It was just a large field.
Don was there in 1990 when the ribbon was cut on Renaissance House.
I had no idea that it could ever amount to what it's amounted to.
It had helped thousands of young people recover from alcohol and drug abuse. And in 2002, when Deric was 17, it was time for him to get the help he needed.
I knew that my life needed a change. I knew that alcohol had, severe consequences, and the path that I was leading was going to end up in death.
Messages from the heart can reach the heart, and I don't think he could have said no to me because of the specialness of the relationship.
And in an effort to encourage him, Don also broke years of silence on a secret he had been keeping from his grandson.
I didn't know until a couple of days before I was sent to Renaissance House that he was, coming up on 20 years of sobriety.
And I come from an alcoholic family, and I modeled what I saw, I guess, I'm not blaming anyone, but it just always seemed like the thing to do.
With it all starting to make sense, Deric set off for 6 months in Renaissance House, followed by 6 months in Promise House.
I'm joined right now by Deric McHenry.
2 years later, he was a guest on the telethon sharing his success story.
Your experience here every day, does it play into your daily life?
Yes, it does. I do as much as I can with the campus, with school, enjoying life. That's what this campus brings. It brings life back without having to be stuck on alcohol and drugs.
Deric is now 10 years sober and leads a self-help group for young people in Buffalo called Sober Train.
I can share what it's like to go through your 21st birthday sober, or to go to your first day of college sober, to go away to school sober.
Helping adolescents conquer their addictions, it seems Deric is now following in his grandfather's footsteps.
Well, he's a true role model and a power of example. In some regards, he has set the bar very high to follow in his footsteps, but it's a great challenge for me, I know.
Now 30 years sober himself and a drug and alcohol counselor and interventionist, Don says he knows how hard it is for Deric, and he couldn't be more proud of him.
Tremendously proud. I really am. And grateful, because everybody doesn't make it.
Together, the two now walk the grounds of Renaissance House. They pass a bench bearing Don's mother's name.
She had 35 years sobriety.
And stand over dozens of bricks etched with names, including Deric's.
When I was here, I'd come over here and look at this, and just think of how funny it was that here this stuff was. But on the other hand, I was able to see its significance and importance, and to kind of learn from it.
The McHenrys will forever be connected to Renaissance House. Don for helping to found it, Deric for getting a second chance at life there. And through their sobriety, their connection to one another is unbreakable.
And there's a reason why the bricks are here, and it's to show the support, the community's support, the individual support, and the people that we lose as well.
There's a pill for every problem.
Every year, KED holds these special sessions called face-to-face summits, bringing together the KED staff, school kids, teachers, parents, and young people who are or have been treated for drug use. These remarkable sessions are eye-opening for those attending and therapeutic for everybody. Last month's summit was at the Wesleyan Church in Hamburg. David Smith is a teacher. Both he and his wife are active in the program.
What I'm seeing more and more is, as soon as you're aware of something, it's just like anything. As soon as you're aware of something, you notice it a lot more. Now that I've gotten into this and have worked with the summit, it always seems like the issues are always coming up. You see articles in the paper. There's kids that you know. There's kids that your friends know. There's kids at other schools. There's kids that your students know, and it's everywhere. And the growth of the summit program kind of mirrors that.
The most powerful lessons at these summits are always from the kids who are in or have been through the Kids Escaping Drugs program. Kids like Alicia.
My name's Alicia. I'll be 24 this summer. I started drinking when I was 13. Dabbled with marijuana and like shot inside. There's no need to get into all the drugs that I've done. The more important thing is I started with alcohol, I tried marijuana, I smoked cigarettes, and I ended with OxyContin and heroin.
Alicia is now at Buff State. No drugs. She doesn't even smoke or drink, and she's on her way to becoming a teacher. Kids hear the anti-drug message often, usually from their parents or teachers. That's important and often effective. But it's not the same as hearing it firsthand from another kid who lost themselves to drugs and was brought back.
Definitely. I mean, because parents sometimes, teens think, oh, they don't understand what I'm going through. This is a new age, new generation. But to hear it from somebody that you can relate to that has an age near yours, it's just much more effective because, it could happen to you in a few years. You could relate to the situation.
This is Matt. He's been in rehab at KED for 6 months. His drug was alcohol. He's graduated from high school now and is giving back by talking to other kids at sessions like this. Often he sees attentive faces, but sometimes he sees trouble.
The ones that laugh when you talk about drinking, the ones that, snicker when you talk about marijuana, the ones that know other drugs that the other kids don't. Those are the kids that just instantly, I'm not a professional, but those are the ones that instantly just strike a trigger in my head and say, this kid, I really feel that this kid could benefit from talking to someone.
And of course, that's the whole idea of these face-to-face summits, to reach kids who may be at risk for drug abuse before they and their families have to go through the nightmare of drug abuse. The staff at KED are well aware of how many young people fall victim to drugs. Nobody knows how many are able to avoid drugs, though, altogether, thanks to events like the face-to-face summit.